Hello and welcome back to Slick Willy Fly. And today we're gonna make this little simple crustacean shrimp. I actually don't have a name for this fly. We're gonna come up with a name. But this is a fly that's super simple to tie, super simple to cast, and catches a lot of fish. And I say we tie one up. So I'm gonna put in the vise, I'm gonna put a Mustad size 1 stainless steel hook. You can use a 1, you can use a 2, you can use a 1/0, you can use, pretty much whatever you want. You can use a lot of different color variations. I'm making a lot of, a little bit of a blend of a pinkish orange and some natural blacks and whites and browns, but you can get more creative. You can be any colors you want. So I'm going to start with some white thread. This is a 6/0 Veevus. And the very first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and put some dumbbell eyes. I'm going to use some small dumbbell eyes. The dumbbell eyes are really to make this fly swim hook side up. And a lot of times I put the dumbbell eyes not quite all the way forward, but in this particular fly I like having the dumbbell eyes very close to the eye of the hook. And I'm using a very small dumbbell eye because honestly you don't need a lot of weight to make this fly swim the way I want it to swim. So I'm just going to do a few X wraps here just to position the dumbbell the way I want it. And once I feel good about where I have the dumbbell, I'm going to go ahead and give it a touch of zap. And now I'm going to give it a few more X wraps in both directions. And then I'm going to go ahead and put a few figure eights in. And if you don't know what a figure eight for me anyway, it's when I go over the hook shank and under the eyes. And what that does is it draws everything in nice and tight. So now I bring my thread back to about where the hook starts to bend. Okay, so what am I going to use? I like to use ice wing. And you have choices. I've been using this shrimp pink ice wing, ripple ice, and I like it because it comes out of the package fairly straight, and it has a good amount of flash built into it. So I pull out a fairly straight section just like that, and now I'm gonna, about at the center of the section, I'm going to go ahead and fold it in half. And I like to put the folded half back towards what would be the back side of the eyeball side of the fly. So I'm going to give it a couple of loose wraps and try to distribute around the hook a little. And now I'm going to lock it in. And then I'm going to take the remainder and I'm going to bring it back. And I'm going to lock it in. This fly is a great inshore saltwater fly, redfish, bonefish, tarpon, any of these kind of species. Nice, I like that a lot right there. Now what I like to do at this point is, before I put the eyes on, I like to make a bump. And for the bump, I'm going to go ahead and just use a little bit of SLF in this like pearl white. This is called, what is this thing called? Pearl. I like these pearls and these kind of colors. They just look great in the water. You don't need a lot. Just gonna build a little bump, which will help separate the eyes. On this particular case, I put a little bit of wax on my line because whatever dubbing I put on the hook here or on the thread, I'm going to use. A lot of times I don't use the wax so that I can move the dubbing around and remove it if I want to remove it, if I feel like I have too much. But in this particular case, can't really have too big a bump here. So now when I take the next step and I start putting the eyes on, you have to remember that right now the hook is upside down. The hook is going to ride hook up. So keep that in mind as you're situating your eyes. So for eyes, what I'm going to use, these are actually, I have some pre-made eyes. What did I do with them? I have basically some store-bought. These are easy shrimp eyes, but I'm not going to use these. I think these are too small. They come in a variety of sizes, but I'm not using them. And then what I did was I got some of my hard mono, and I actually made some eyes, and I colored them up and epoxied them up, and they look great, just like that. So I'm going to take my flat pliers that you've seen me use in the past, and I'm going to create a flat spot nearly at the bottom because I want these eyes to be long. I want these eyes to show. So I make a nice big flat spot, which helps me position the eyes how I want them to be positioned. Helps me lock them in, and that's, well, they moved. I had them perfect for a second. I want the eyes to be on the side, but also I want them to be on the side kind of going up towards the hook. Just like that, just like that. I think you can see that. So that's locked in nicely. And now I'm going to do the opposite side. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to give it a nice flat spot. You know, the mono has a natural curl to it. I use that curl. I use that curl to help me get it to splay out. So now what's important is the length. Bring my thread back up to the right spot. And I just want to make sure that the eye length is very similar. And that they look good, just like that. That came out great. Really happy with the way the eyes turned out there. All right. So the next step is I take a cape and I'm going to get some feathers. Actually, you know what I'm going to do before I put on my claws with a feather? I'm going to go ahead and put on an antenna. This is just about I would say a 6-inch piece of crystal flash, and this one is black and white crystal flash, and it's just a leftover that I had from an earlier fly that I tied. So I'm going to put it on my thread about evenly, as even as I can get it, and then it's going to go right on the top of the hook, just like that. And then once I'm happy with that, I can separate them, take one to each side, and lock those in. just like that. And these are my antenna. You know, it's just, this is gonna be, maybe it's gonna be confused for a crab, maybe it's gonna be confused for a shrimp, but at the end of the day, it's a crustacean of some sort. Now I'm gonna do the exact same process with one silver and black banded silly leg. I'm gonna repeat the process right on top and lock it in. Now I put one on each side, just like that, and make sure that they're tied in. Perfect. So now I'm gonna work on my claws. So for claws, I have this Grizzly cape, and really it's just a matter of picking two feathers that are similar in length and are the size appropriate for claws. I guess is the only way that I can explain it. And I have a lot of options here. I think those two look good. So I pull those off. Now feathers have a natural curl. Again, I'm going to use the curl to help me, oops, dropped one. Doesn't matter, we can do one at a time anyway. I'm going to use the curl to help me get that curling away from the body. And the length is going to be longer than the original ice wing. It's basically my length. So I'm going to do 2 loose wraps, and now I'm going to make sure that I like where this feather is sitting before I pull tight. And lock it in. And now I'm going to reverse to the opposite side, the other feather. And again, I'm using the naturally occurring curl. I have the first feather as a guide, 2 loose wraps. I'm going to pull this in a little to match the length. A little bit more. That looks good. Get all my rubber legs and everything away and lock it in. And now I can trim off this tag. Okay. So now what am I going to do? Well, I have 2 choices. On this particular fly, I added an additional feather that then I used to fold over and create this separation. It's the bottom of the fly. The fly will sit a little bit better on the bottom. But on this particular fly, I chose not to do it. And you have the Hackel going all the way around. I'll be honest with you, they both work. So I think on this fly, I'm gonna go ahead and skip that step since we have all the additional legs and everything else that's already going on here. I think we're good. So what I'm gonna do is I am gonna pick a good size Hackel feather. And what I'm looking for more than anything is a nice long feather. This is a good feather right here. This is gonna be a nice, perfect Hackel, nice and long. So I'm gonna just trim a little bit off the bottom. And then what we have to consider is, the only thing you have to consider is that again, this is got a curl. We want the Hackel to curl the right way. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this feather and I'm going to go ahead and just attach it to the fly. Perfect. So now this part that's coming up is going to be a little tricky. I have this little 6-inch chenille that we're going to apply, but we have to be careful that we don't attach it and capture the rubber legs or the crystal flash, you know, in a way that we don't want. So all I'm doing is exposing the thread. This is like a pearl white chenille. It's like a 5mm. It's a very small chenille. I'm just attaching it to the hook shank. Now I'm going to bring the thread all the way back to the eye. Now I'm sure that you've heard me say in the past that when you use any kind of dubbing material, you go in the same direction that you are using your thread. But the thing that I'm going to have to be most careful about here is that I don't capture the rubber legs. So just take your time and make sure that you don't capture the crystal flash or the rubber legs. And just work up to the dumbbell eyes just like I did there. And then once you're to the dumbbell eyes, you can just capture the chenille. Just like so. And once you feel good that you have captured the chenille, then you can just trim it off. Perfect. So now you take your Hackel plier, and God knows I wish I had a better Hackel plier, but I keep saying that and I just haven't. I have to go get one. And I keep complaining about my Hackel plier, but I don't fix it. That's nice. So again, making sure to not capture anything in the wrong orientation, I'm going to take my Hackel in the exact same direction that I took my dubbing. Now if I was doing, like for instance, a gold rib, if I was doing a gold rib, then I would do it in the opposite direction, because the point of a ribbing is to secure the dubbing, but that's not really the case with this Hackel. The Hackel is really just to give this fly a little bit more life. Alright, so once I'm up to the eye, to the dumbbell eye, I'm just going to bring my thread in and capture it. Just like that. And I'm not really too concerned if I've trapped a few fibers. And now it's just a whip finish. You know, you can use a pink thread. You can use, gosh, you know, like all the flies that I tie, you're just limited by your imagination. I mean, this is a great little fly right here. The rubber legs, I'm gonna possibly trim them. Let's see how long they are now. Don't know that I want my rubber legs to be longer than the claw feather. So let's trim them a little shorter. Okay. My crystal flash is, I like the long crystal flash. I'm gonna leave that the way it is. I think it looks great. The only thing I'm going to do is trim up some of these fibers that are going the wrong way. And I could put a tiny bit of UV resin on the head of the fly. The fly itself, I can show you, because of the orientation of the dumbbell eye, the fly is going to swim like this. This is how the fly will be in the water. And I think that that looks awesome. The rubber legs are going to look good. This little crystal flash antenna is going to look good. This is going to have a lot of little life and a lot of movement. And this catches a lot of fish. This is a great little fly. I've caught sea trout, snappers, jacks, all kind of fish on this little, I don't even know what to call it. It's like, I guess we're going to call it some form of a shrimp. I don't know. We'll come up with a name. We'll come up with a name and we'll put it in on the thumbnail. But it's a crustacean, a slick willy crustacean. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video. Thank you again for watching, and thank you for having a cocktail with me, and good luck catching.